Dr. Octavia Choi presents Brain Basics. The human brain, a complex and intricate organ, governs everything from intelligence and memory to behavior and consciousness. This article explores the neuroscience behind brain function, using case studies like Phineas Gage to illustrate key principles. Advances in brain imaging have revolutionized our understanding, shedding light on how different regions interact to shape cognition and decision-making. Case study, Phineas Gage, a landmark in cognitive neuroscience. One of the most famous cases in neuroscience is that of Phineas Gage. Imagine a man, a responsible, intelligent railroad worker, who, after a freak accident, undergoes a profound personality shift. Gage was using a tamping iron to pack explosives when a spark ignited the charge, sending the iron rod through his skull, piercing his frontal lobe. Astonishingly, he survived. However, while his memory and basic cognitive abilities remained intact, his personality drastically changed. He became impulsive, irritable, and reckless, a stark contrast to his former disciplined self. His doctor, John Harlow, noted that Gage's equilibrium or balance between his intellectual faculties and animal capacities seemed to have been destroyed. Before the injury, he was seen as a shrewd, smart businessman. Afterward, he was impatient, foul-mouthed, and unable to plan effectively. His friends even stated, he was no longer Gage. This case set the foundation for cognitive neuroscience, demonstrating functional specialization, the idea that different parts of the brain are responsible for specific functions. Damage to one area does not necessarily mean total cognitive decline but rather specific impairments. Think of it like a smartphone. If you crack the screen, your phone still works, but the way you interact with it changes. If the battery fails, the phone won't turn on, but all its internal data is still there. Similarly, brain injuries do not wipe away cognitive abilities but can alter how they function. Brain anatomy and its specialized functions. The brain is divided into different lobes, each with its own specialized role. Example, a person can still have emotions without a functioning frontal lobe, but they may not be able to control or process them effectively. Frontal lobe governs planning, decision-making, and impulse control. Think of it as your internal manager, ensuring you stay on task. Temporal lobe handles auditory processing and memory. It's like your brain's hard drive for storing sound and past experiences. Parietal lobe processes sensory input and spatial awareness, helping you judge distances, like knowing how far to reach for a cup. Occipital lobe, responsible for vision, working like the processing unit of a camera. The corpus callosum acts as a bridge between the brain's two hemispheres. Damage to this structure can lead to split brain phenomena, where each hemisphere functions independently, demonstrating the lateralization of brain function. Imagine being in a car with two drivers, each controlling one side of the vehicle without being able to communicate. That's what happens when the corpus callosum is severed. Each hemisphere starts working independently. The brain's wiring and connectivity. The corpus callosum connects the two hemispheres, ensuring that both sides of the brain communicate. The left hemisphere controls logical thinking and language, while the right hemisphere is more about abstract thought and creativity. Example, a split-brain patient can recognize an object but may not be able to verbally name it if the connection is severed. The brainstem and survival functions. The brainstem is responsible for automatic life functions such as breathing, heart rate, and basic sensory processing. It acts as the upper extension of the spinal cord, coordinating essential survival functions. Example, you don't need to consciously tell yourself to breathe, your brainstem does that for you. The brainstem has built-in sensors that constantly monitor your blood's oxygen levels. If oxygen drops, your body will instinctively react before you even become aware of it. If the brainstem is damaged, survival is at risk. A person can lose the ability to regulate vital functions like breathing, which can be fatal. The limbic system, the brain's emotional core. The limbic system sits between the brainstem and the cortex and plays a key role in emotions, motivation, and decision-making. It acts like the brain's alarm system, constantly scanning the environment for threats, rewards, and important stimuli. The amygdala is the brain's alarm system, triggers fear and helps us respond to danger. The ventral striatum is the pleasure center, gives us motivation for rewards, e.g., eating, social interactions. The orbital frontal cortex integrates emotions with decision-making, helps us weigh the consequences of actions. Example, the amygdala is like a security guard, the ventral striatum is the excitement for a reward, and the orbital frontal cortex is the wise elder keeping things in check. Limbic system and their functions. The amygdala, the brain security guard. The amygdala is the part of the brain that triggers fear and emotional reactions. It scans everything around you for potential threats and danger, sending urgent alerts to the rest of the brain. Analogy: think of the amygdala as a scared little child that overreacts to things. If it sees something unfamiliar, it might scream, "Danger!" even if there is no real threat. Example: if you see a spider, your amygdala might immediately trigger fear, even before you consciously decide whether it's dangerous. The ventral striatum, the brain's pleasure center. The ventral striatum is responsible for anticipating pleasure and reward. It gets excited when it sees something desirable, like food, social connection, or a potential mate. Analogy: imagine walking past a bakery and smelling fresh donuts. Your ventral striatum lights up, making you crave that donut, even if you weren't hungry before. It's like a child jumping up and down in excitement, urging you to go towards something that might bring pleasure. The orbital frontal cortex, the wise elder that keeps impulses in check. The orbital frontal cortex sits above the eyes and helps weigh consequences and regulate emotions. It takes input from the amygdala and ventral striatum and decides whether acting on an impulse is a good idea. Analogy: if the amygdala is the scared child and the ventral striatum is the excited kid, the orbital frontal cortex is the wise elder saying, "Maybe we should think about this first." Example: you see a donut and your ventral striatum screams for it, but your orbital frontal cortex reminds you of your diet and says, "You'll regret this later." How these parts work together. If the amygdala, fear system, and ventral striatum, pleasure system, are overactive and the orbital frontal cortex, regulation system, is weak, a person may be impulsive, reckless, or struggle with emotional control. Phineas Gage's brain injury damaged his orbital frontal cortex, which meant he could still feel emotions and desires but had trouble controlling them. Example: if the orbital frontal cortex is damaged, you might feel the urge to yell at your boss, but without regulation, you actually do it instead of stopping yourself. Why this matters in everyday life. The limbic system drives our emotional reactions and decision-making, often before we even think. Recognizing how fear, reward, and control interact can help us understand behaviors like overeating, addiction, impulsivity, and anxiety. Self-regulation strategies, like mindfulness and deep breathing, help calm the amygdala, reduce impulsive decisions, and engage the orbital frontal cortex more effectively. Conscience and moral decision-making. Conscience isn't just knowing right from wrong, it's feeling it. People with damage to emotional processing centers may understand rules but lack the emotional response to enforce them in their behavior. Example: a red light in an empty town, most people still stop, not because they rationally think about laws, but because it feels wrong to break them. The triune brain and evolutionary structure. The triune brain theory proposes that our brain has evolved in layers. 1. Reptilian brain, brainstem, manages survival functions like breathing and heart rate. Think of it as the factory settings of your body, running on autopilot. 2. Limbic system, processes emotions and assigns value to stimuli. It's like the brain's spam filter, deciding what's important and what's not. 3. Neocortex, cerebral cortex, enables higher-order thinking, language, and self-awareness, like the latest software upgrade that allows complex problem-solving. The amygdala scans for threats and triggers fear responses. The ventral striatum processes pleasure, motivating actions toward rewards like food or social interaction. The orbital frontal cortex integrates emotions with decision-making, helping regulate impulses. Have you ever stopped at a red light in an empty town, even when no one was watching? That's not just logic, it's your conscience at work, shaped by emotional conditioning and reinforcement over time. Advancements in brain imaging, from X-rays to functional MRI. Early imaging techniques. X-rays, 1895 limited in brain research due to skull density. Pneumoencephalography, 1950s, 60s involved injecting air into the brain's ventricles for better contrast, an incredibly painful procedure, like inflating a balloon inside your head. CAT scans, 1960s enabled 3D reconstruction of brain structures using computational algorithms. Modern imaging techniques. MRI, magnetic resonance imaging uses magnetic fields to create high-resolution brain images. fMRI, functional MRI tracks blood flow to infer brain activity, visualizing which areas activate during specific tasks. Diffusion tensor imaging, DTI maps neural wiring by tracking water molecule movement in axons. Think of DTI as a city's subway map. It shows how different regions, stations, are connected and where the flow of traffic, neural signals, is strongest. The future of neuroscience, high-resolution mapping and AI integration. Cutting-edge research in optical imaging allows us to see brain circuits at an unprecedented level. Scientists like Carl Diceroth have developed transparent brain techniques, enabling the visualization of neural connections in 3D. Imagine taking a car engine apart but keeping all the wires in place. That's what transparent brain imaging does, allowing us to see neural networks in real time. Future advancements may integrate AI to analyze complex brain patterns, refining therapeutic approaches for mental health and neurological disorders.